Hello everyone. Today's topics is how not to run stewardship groups, use case for GraphQL, presenting in API Days Helsinki and North 2025. And let's start. A little bit of me. I'm Gadiel Cruz, Senior Software Engineer in the API team in AlphaSense. Please follow us and some information if you're interested. Okay, so I'm really excited to talk about a topic that I think is totally worth a shot in the corporate tech world, especially as our systems and organizations grow more and more complex, which is stewardship groups. I will begin with some concepts, what literature suggests, and then I will switch to my journey in AlphaSense to get the most out of our GraphQL stewardship group, and most importantly, the pitfalls and challenges on the road. Then I would like to have a disclaimer here that I will be focusing on GraphQL specific type of stewardship because that's the one I have worked with. But I feel like these lessons apply to any other topics as long as they are eligible. And I'll come back to this eligibility part a bit later. Let's begin with some concepts. And basically, there are like some prominent vendors in the GraphQL world. And they refer to GraphQL stewardship as like things like cross-functional group of key stakeholders with a mission to empower teams to be good citizens of the graph, and also focusing on setting standards, facilitate evolution, support operations, enforcing best practices for client usage, and so on. They even get more specific about stewardships to keep it from a safe distance from guilds or work groups. For example, they say that the guild is volunteer-driven oftenly. There is like a good community to share knowledge, to share best practices, good for learning, but hard to sustain impact if you don't dedicate the focus on the right places. So what about stewardship? What it is? I like this definition from the Apollo GraphQL docs, which define it as a center of excellence. I think it's very much what it should be. It's kind of more intentional, more collaborative approach to tend the graph, to guide its growth, ensuring it like integrity, and not just govern it as a governance team. So I'd like to say here that the stewardship group is more than just a forum. It is about active ownership and collective improvement. But okay, the big first question is why? Why should we even care for this steward something? It will take people's focus, energy, and a lot of saliva to get it rolling. So it should be worth, right? Well, as you may suspect, it depends. And GraphQL is savage and easy to get wrong. It's hard to onboard. And I won't get into details very much to keep the focus on the stewardship part, and also because you already know it's GraphQL. And then there are a couple of broad guidelines that help in this discussion. So why you may need it? If there is something particularly complex in your tech stack that makes it burdensome, then you may need a stewardship. Or if there is like a plethora of teams with a certain piece of technology that your company has, maybe because they were asked to use that technology or because it was some internal initiative that some teams are driving, then you may also need it if the amount of teams interacting is huge. Then How to know if you need it? For starters, I would like to say that maybe try it out for a few sessions, for example, 1 quarter or even 6 months, and then make a pause. By that time, you will have a really good grasp. You will really know if you need it or not, because either you miss it, then you need it, or then you are relieved that it didn't tag along. It just added some noise and was of no value. Then probably you don't really need these stewardships. Some people say that you know when you will need it, but that is not really true in most cases. So in summary, why you may need it is that stewardship shine when you need to handle necessary complexity in organizational and tech, or in other words, when the bread and butter is unwittingly the Wild West, as it is in GraphQL world in organizations. In my case, I didn't have to ask this question. When I joined APIscene, the founding stones were already in place, and the need by then was very, very clear. There was like a considerable amount of tech debt. The organization was growing really fast and still does. A lot of teams were adopting GraphQL either because they would benefit or because they were asked to do it to unify the platform. And of course, this cost a lot of totally uneven levels of know-how between the teams. The incidents were growing, the number of issues was growing as well, and only Slack available to save us all. So, oh no. Then how to get started, just as our friend here has a really nice to-do. We also need some to-dos to start with a stewardship. But let's assume that the decision has been taken. You think that you would benefit from a stewardship group. So here are my picks on what I think it's the best way. But as with any other process, iteration is really great and awesome to get things right in the long run. So don't take too seriously this to-do list that I will provide you. But basically is number one, a list of people to invite to the stewardship at first. And the second one is a list of topics to start with. And it's simple, right? Well, as I just said, it is much more important to keep consistent and assess regularly where stewardship is at, just like it's any other process. But of course, it doesn't hurt to start strong. So the recommendation is to make some time to create your list of potential stewards or people to join this group. And of course, consider individual contributors, tech leads, engineering managers, staff for seasoned engineers, product managers. Everyone should have a voice. Just consider that you need to assess the membership based on the potential impact that they could have. And that takes us to the second list, which is which topics. So if you're going to invite some people, it's because you need to know that they are appropriate for the topics that you want to address at first. So those two lists of people and topics are intertwined. So it requires the right people at the right time. And just as the stewardship has some specific situations where it becomes beneficial and a source of value, the same with how you handle these two lists of people and topics. Before I dig into lots of words, I believe that it boils down to start small, use your instincts, and be ready to fail, open to understand if it is working or it isn't. But I can guarantee, and that's why I mark this as optional, is because people and topics will keep changing. So let's go to a bit more core part of stewardship, which is the stewards. Something that has played really nice in favor of stewardship in AlphaSense is the organizational structure. Why I say this is because we have in the company three different types of engineering teams. The first one is feature, the second is platform teams, and there is a third one, which is not that common to see. We internally we call it enabling team, and these enabling teams are focused in cross-organizational initiatives to support feature teams to make their lives easier. But their focus is more in terms of developer experience, not as platform, which also support the whole feature teams by providing a certain piece of technology so that development can happen on top of it. This is more for the developer experience. Then these enabling teams are characterized by having three things. The first one, they have the freedom to innovate, which is critical. They are aware of what is happening in the company. They are driven by the needs. And last but not least, they are given the power to influence the ways of working. The stewardship core team is aligned with one of these enabling teams in AlphaSense, and this brings all these advantages, the freedom, the awareness, the influence, and that's just fabulous. It's a great recipe. I know it can get harder for organizations to accommodate for all this, and in those cases, maybe just search for people that can bring these three elements in one way or another, and that there you'll get a really nice core team of stewards to start with. And then the second big thing is the goals or the struggle to make progress. This is one of the hardest parts to get right, and I haven't reached the sweet spot up to this day, but let's dive into it. Stewardships are meant to take on-time routes, risk hoping for good value in return, take time to digest and share the insights with a wider audience. But at the same time, there are clear pinpoints to address, and the urgency to deliver to stay ahead is a continuum. So then is where the struggle begins. You, of course, can start by not setting goals, just follow the current, and it may work for a while, but I really think that we can do better. Then how to set the right goals. And unfortunately, there is no answer yet, but I can share that on top of being aware of the real needs and also having some proper tracking is on what is achieved, what is expected. It helps a lot. It helps a lot in deciding what type of work can be taken in or out the stewardship, and the clearer the expectations, it's the more efficient it gets with time. So it's an ongoing process. But there is a second part here in terms of the goals. You need a reason to be effective in engaging the organization and even the core team. Without a reason, even if you have this process part done well of awareness and tracking, it's pointless, basically. So you need to highlight the areas in which the group should participate and tackle to get the maximum value. So work on things where alignment is critical, and just avoid what is obvious, avoid what is internal. If it's really low level, that can maybe be associated to a specific team or individual contributor, you take that out of the stewardship and you just focused on the things where alignment is critical. That's where you get the value. And the next one is moderation. Uh, Trust is what you're after when you're asking for a change. I like that very much. And moderation in stewardships can be really powerful and a true turnover. Make sure you make the moderation as correct and as right as possible. You need to ensure that there is air in the room. Uh, you need, need to make it easy for people to share their challenges and successes. And that is absolutely key in making the most out of this time. It gets harder when people with very different levels of seniority engage in one discussion. If the moderation is not done properly, you may just end in zero sum. So there are louder voices taking the stage, unfamiliar guys are completely lost. No progress at all. This has to be like actively controlled by giving as much context as possible and keeping things in simple terms. Only then you can really enjoy of the flow of ideas, synergies can occur. And just remember that if complex things cannot be explained in simple terms, then they are not yet very well understood. There is a second thing other than keeping it simple and building the safe space is share the achievements. This is a fantastic practice that has helped in the stewardship mood in general. You focus in showing achievements rather than pushing for results. Then the people like basically are doing their best to deliver. There is no need for additional overlords in a stewardship group. So just keep it sharing oriented. It makes it valuable, easy to handle for everyone. And then you just elevate the motivation and the interest in a very respectful time way. But then how to keep it relevant? As we can see, really nice GitHub contributions board. That's what you need to keep it relevant. Contributions, and as much as you can get those. And of course, they need to be valuable. You need quality always in stewardship over quantity. Well, keep it relevant just by contribution. Sounds easy. Bring important stuff and off you go. But once you have stewardship groups running for a long period of time, it takes more and more effort to engage people, especially when there are not many results to show, or the important discussions happened, but then after 2 months, 3 months, there is no progress or the progress is not tangible. And this takes me to a very critical part of stewardship. Of course, team capacity is always limited. There are always critical product priorities, all sorts of deadlines. Then how to make people to invest in things that may not be directly tied to their immediate needs. And this is a secret weapon. Something has been mentioned in the previous slides. And that is the core contributors. Having people whose work is to focus in cross-functional initiatives, it's just a winning formula to keep it relevant, because this core team will know what is important by being like frontliners by mandate. They also understand the daily struggles of the teams that are really using this technology, and their work of these core members is aligned with these necessities. So what will happen is that they will deliver things that become relevant over and over. So that way you keep a baseline of engagement and relevance in the stewardship. And then on top of that, of course, there's always a number of teams doing great stuff across the whole organization. So the developments that were initially conceived by team-specific needs, but can benefit the whole organization, are just shared. And again, the relevance, the engagement arises just by sharing the wins of the different teams, uh, and you elevate the impact like massively. And well, let's discuss a little bit more ideas to elevate your impact. Some things that could be obvious, but it's worth mentioning to not let you down. Uh, if you want to make substantial impact in the organization, the very first thing that you should secure is the leadership buy-in. Uh, None of what I have talked is relevant if there is no support from leadership. They need to understand and be confident with this stewardship idea. There will be times when you may need a little bit more support from leadership, especially when you have broader initiatives on winding, or to settle things like creating the core stewardship team. And on the other side, keep a clear communication of what is being done and make it visible and available for everyone. One last thing, and I'd like to close with this. Please mind the value. Uh, for GraphQL APIs, as any other product, there are like UX designers, UI designers, product owners, even the people who use the APIs, the client developers. All of them are crucial for ensuring that the schema serves their real needs. So just keep them in sync. They may not like the intricate parts of engineering discussion, but it's just a matter of setting up the stage, select the adequate topics or the goals of specific meetings, and you're up for the most valuable feedback, which is the voice of the consumer. And well, that's it. A little bit about our team, which is the core team that I mentioned. So it's the API team in APIscene. So thank you very much.